Business challenges have changed. They're quicker, bigger, more disruptive. So is that worrying or exciting? How do today's successful leaders think? We're on a mission to find out.
There are three things that differentiate a company.
This is how they plan projects, think, structure, solve and succeed.
Attracting talent and retaining talent is a big challenge for everyone.
Inspiring you to look at things from a different perspective, to see the bigger picture, to change the game.
One of the things I used to do before I realised it was illegal. One of the biggest sort of barriers to the successful adoption of technology that I've experienced over the past couple of decades are actually where new technologies do emerge, or new paradigms like data lakes and machine learning and things like that, or generative AI emerge. And then people are people, and they want to sort of build a career around that new paradigm. It might be AI, it might be insights or data science, and they think that they can bring those technologies and build those technologies themselves. They end up trying to hire talent and then to build innovations that will be long-lasting in their organizations. And if I'm being really honest, I think what happens is that it's very hard for organizations to attract and retain talent, particularly AI talent. And so I tend to ask people, have you got a pedigree, a track record of being able to build software inside your organization and scaling it so that it's maintained and innovated within your organization? Because if you don't, you probably are not going to be able to do the same with AI. So my biggest kind of concern right now are people that think that they can bring and build these technologies themselves, because it actually also helps them build a career around that particular topic. But my worry is that over the next 2, 3, 4 years, there's going to be a massive amount of sort of misinvestment or tech debt that's created. And I think organizations need to kind of be honest with themselves about what is their specialism, what are they trying to achieve, and then who they should be using as partners to then fill in the gaps.
I think you're right. I think attracting talent and retaining talent is a big challenge for everyone. I think with the skill shortage in the industry, it is very difficult to get hold of the right people in your organization. I think that's a huge kind of macro trend that is happening everywhere in the industry. So.
Yeah, I mean, for 5 years, I ran a master's program in AI in UCL just down the road, where I had hundreds of students going out there applying these technologies, solving problems across a whole range of different industries. So I got a sense of how the ability for organizations to hire that talent in the first place, to retain that talent, and it's a real struggle. You need to have a community of technologists, of AI experts to allow that talent to thrive. You need to have career paths and all of this kind of stuff. I would argue that there are three things that differentiate a company. The first thing we've already talked about was your leadership. If leadership are not bought in or understand the transformational power of AI, of technology, then you're wasting your time. The leadership need to appreciate and understand pragmatically the importance of these technologies. I think the second differentiator is data. It's data that makes technology smart. It's data that makes the AI smart. And I encourage organizations to make their data available that differentiates them from their competitors. But the third is talent. I guess you need to be able to attract or engage somehow with deep AI talent to build differentiated technologies. And then you need to support them, maintain them, innovate them, and typically you do need to rely on partners. I really love Steve Jobs' definition of innovation. He said innovation is creativity that ships, and you need to have talent to be able to do that. You need to have the infrastructure, the processes, all of the infrastructure in place to enable that talent to thrive. And so technology is not the differentiator, it's your ability to unlock talent that's the differentiator.
I think there is a fourth point that I would add for a great company to work for, which is the culture, which I think it helps you attract and retain that talent. And culture, is at the core of, I think the definition of culture is how people behave when nobody's looking, which I love that definition. I think, Daniel, you're very passionate about technology, and I think technology also plays a huge impact in terms of the culture, because I think if you think about the employee experience, which is much of that employee experience is through technology. There's the laptop you get at work, all your experience with the processes and all that. So I see IT as an enabler as well for the culture and providing that excellent employee experience as well.
I've been very interested in actually decentralized organizations for a very long time. How do you create liquid companies using technology? So maybe just to give you an idea, one of the things I used to do before I realized it was illegal was that we used to get people in my company to make public recommendations for their salary. So everybody would publicly declare what they want to be paid, and then people would then vote on whether those salaries should be increased or decreased or kept the same. And we would use AI to determine how many votes one person has for another. So if I've worked very closely with you over the past year, if I'm very knowledgeable about your domain, I will have more votes for your salary than somebody else. And the principle here is that instead of decisions being made in a hierarchy, which we know is not necessarily the best structure for decisions, can you use AI to identify the best diverse group of experts to be able to cluster around the problem that needs to get solved? And I think that's really how the future of organizations need to operate. They need to operate in these fluid, dynamic ways to allow them to adapt more rapidly to a changing world enabled by AI. I know that AI can be used to make things more efficient, but we all have processes that even if you made them efficient, they're still not very effective. So AI is actually changing the way that we also do processes. And I think that, again, organizations that are going to survive and thrive are the ones that not only differentiate their supply chain, their offering, but they also change the way they operate, their processes, their back office processes, hiring, firing, onboarding, expenses, to allow them to be as adaptive and as liquid as possible.
That's a very interesting approach to use AI. I'm thinking on the salary.
Yeah, I think the idea is you can apply this principle to any decision. Like, what the question is, how do you get the best diverse group of people to make the decision? It could be applied to feedback, it could be applied to career development, it could be applied to hiring, firing, resourcing. You can apply this concept to kind of any decision that happens across an organization. And actually, many years ago, I sort of mapped 400 decisions that pretty much every organization has. And I think that AI, particularly a concept called digital twins, which are essentially simulations of entire organizations, will unlock these new ways of organizing ourselves as companies.